Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel, and today I am going to be showing you how to create magical looks on your furniture. Like that flourish there. This is the piece for today. It's a corner unit. I like a corner unit. Corner units are practical and they relatively sell quite well for me. So this has got some age to it. It is pretty old, but the thing that was dating it is going to probably make it quite hard to sell. Was it had some really bad sort of kind of stained glass in the front. I got Martin to remove it because originally I thought maybe I'll put chicken wire, then I thought I might do fabric. And now actually, after it being sitting over there, me looking at the design, I've decided I'm not putting anything in it. I think it'd be quite nice with some plants, books, up to the customer how they want to end up using it. But this is a bit unusual for me. It's a bit left field. The outer is all going to be black, and in here and the shelves are going to be green. So what green am I using? Because you've seen me use my black. My black is the Athenian black. Oh yeah, I should actually show you the cupboard. So it's just, I mean, that doesn't really do much now. It just makes a nice frame round there. And the bottom half, I think it's maybe already open. Lovely and clean. Don't need to do anything with it. In good nick, really. Nice bit of detail here. It's going to be a stenciling project. It's going to be sort of mystical, magical, ethereal, any of those descriptions. You can let me know at the end whether I've pulled it off or not. But the external edge and all the cupboard fronts is going to be black. This aperture and the shelves are going to be the new Annie Sloan's Capability Green, which is this colour here, which is a really nice shade of green, not one that I've used before. I was buying paint the other day and Mark said, not tried this one. It's one of the new shades that came out at the same time as Paprika and the Frida Blue. And I didn't take the green at the time because I had quite a lot of greens. So I'm quite glad I got it. And I think this is going to look really nice in here with the black on the outside. And then we'll get to making it magical.
It's going to look lush.
Then we'll get to making it lush. Mark's is going to look lush.
It is.
At the end, we'll see.
That green is going to look lush.
Yeah, and I've got a really good sort of idea for sort of detail and work and everything. So let's see how we go. So I'm not going to labour the point here. You understand. I'm going to paint this 2 coats of black on the outside, 2 light coats. Remember, when you're using black, don't be tempted to put one heavy coat on because it's black, thinking that you're going to get full coverage. You're probably not. 2 lighter coats is worth 1 great big splodged on coat, just is. And the inside, I'm probably going to have to, with this shade, maybe have to do 3 coats. But when it's all dry, we'll come back and we'll get to making it beautiful. Okay, so what I've done is exactly what I said I was going to do. I've painted the piece black and I've put the green up the top. I very sillily didn't paint underneath the shelf, so I'm going to have to take those all back out in a minute. But you get the general 2 colours. Now, as it's in my best interest at the moment, I'm trying lots of different stencils. And when I saw this, I was intrigued. It's a metal stencil. I'll put it up against there and you can see what it is. It's a moth. What can I say so far? I've realised that they're not practical. You can't bend them round edges. And if I wanted to just do something in there, I can't because it doesn't bend into the aperture. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you're at all sensitive to how things feel, this feels to me a bit like claws on a blackboard. It doesn't feel very nice either. So let's see how it works. Now, what is today about? I saw this moth and I thought I'd get it, but it's about building a design around this really that's going to cohesive and work. So I've got this stencil, but what I did was I just kind of had a little ferret around. I think this is one of the oldest stencils I own. It must be over 10 years old. It feels like I've always had it. It's probably seen better days, but it's still going. So, and it does bend round things. So, there's that. This is more environmentally friendly. Well, is it? It's probably not. No. So, I mean,
well, I'd imagine it's aluminium, so it probably is recyclable, 100% recyclable, but
it's not good in the first place.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So there's environmental impact as well, which. What else did I do? I've got a flowery stencil here. I've got some of the ferns from the Franz IOD stamp. I've got a bee from the Birds and Bees stamp. I've got some of the flowers from the Primitive stamp. So really what I was trying to do was sort of kind of put together a sort of natural theme. And so root through your stencils, root through your stamps, if you're going to try and do a sort of moth design, and just pick out all the things that you think might work. Now, I am going to, the plan is I'm just really want the moth at the moment. The rest can come later, but obviously I'm not going to tape all of this off. So if I get any little bits of paint in this, I'm just going to repaint them out. I looked at it and went, by the time I tape all of that off. So I really would have ideally have liked it to go this way, but I can't because it doesn't bend. So I'm going to position it in this gap this way and do one this way, and then going to take it out and hope for the best that when I put this up in there that they're kind of symmetrical. What palettes I'm using? Greens. So on here I've added these two, which is Florence and Giverny, which makes this sort of really deep turquoise. I've got Antibes green, and I've got the green I started, which is Capability green. Once I've stenciled this, I'm going to get gold paint, and where the black outline is, I'm going to go back round it in gold. So let's just get this on and see how this all sort of pans out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the whole base in the Capability green, which is the green up here, because I'm then going to kind of hand paint with the other two. So let's just see how this all works. I might be eating my words if it makes an absolute perfect stencil, but was it expensive? No, not really. Did that draw me to it? No, not really. Just like the design, and I wanted to try the metal stencils because obviously we're bringing out our own, and I think doing your due diligence is probably a good idea, and I've used many stencils, and I thought I've never tried a metal one, so before I do any more, I thought I'd just give it a go, and you're just going to be the recipients of my trial. So let's have a wee look at this and see whether we think it does a nice job. I'm not thrilled, but these little parts here are okay because that's, as I said, I've just touched up. So let's have a wee look and see if I can do this up in here without, their antennae probably are going to be touching on both sides. I think I can already see it's ruining stencil brushes because it's taking quite a lot of hair out my stencil brush because it's because it's metal. So we're going to have to pick those hairs out in a minute. Let's have a wee look at that. See how this goes on this side. Yeah. Well, once we've got some colour on it, so you can understand, I'm going to repeat the same here and here. Because I want to add my own design around this, I will probably put the moons back in somewhere along this piece. However, these are going to be too small format for the whole piece, and the likes of the moons go in an arc, which means that they're not going to, I'm going to have to try and think about the way to do it. So really, let's just focus on the moth, and I'm just going to be putting it up the top. So what I'm going to do is go away and put these two on here, this one on here, and I'll probably, what I normally do is, and I've told you this before, I normally do one panel to the way I like it, and then I'll come and show you because I've kind of got the sort of idea going in my head. I will get the black and I'll just touch around there and get rid of all that messiness. You can tape off, and it was a plastic, I probably would have, but it just felt a little bit like I wasn't going to even attempt it today. Yeah, it's not very kind to stencil brushes. That's one thing. You can see the hairs flying off it, Martin, can't you?
Yeah, and stencil brushes are
expensive.
They're more expensive than the stencil.
Yeah.
So,
I mean that one there is, I think that's about 16, 17 pounds.
Yeah.
So I mean, you don't want to be ruining your stencil brushes. I don't very often use stencil brushes, just normally use my brushes out of my tin. But I thought because I want to trial things properly, I thought I'll use the right tools and then we'll all be good. I would imagine as well. Nah, it's still quite clean on this side. Let's not judge it at the moment. The overall outcome might be something that we're really happy with. But as I said, I'm going to go and clean this up, do the rest of this, do this panel, then come back, show you how to do this panel and what I'm going to be doing up here. Okay, so let's just paint this in. We're going to be coming over the top of these with Poscas, and it's just the shades that I showed you that I had on the palette. It's nothing different. I'm not cleaning my brush between dipping in. I'm just trying to get as many shades of the blues and the greens on this as I can. I've got a sort of darker green that I brought out as well, just to kind of give it, and all of them are slightly different. There's not all of them are the same. There, something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to get a thinner brush for it. It's antennae. Now, this is what they look like when they've been painted in, and I painted these ones here in, yeah? But I want to try and make, because I've positioned this up here because I want to put some ferns and greenery here, what I've picked out was this one, this stamp, this stencil, and this fern. So let's just try and put these on. So I'm going to be starting with my sort of, I just need to kind of dry my brush a minute. I keep a basin behind me to put all my sticky stamps in so that they're ready to use the next time round. But you've got to be kind of careful with stencil brushes because if they're wet, you're going to end up with bleed through. And I'm not exactly loving that metal stencil as it is. Well, we're not using it right now anyway, so we're good. So I'm going to try something like this sort of positioning here. And this is the good thing about these ones because you can kind of manipulate it. And I'm going in with the Antiques green. I'm going to make sure I've offloaded it a bit because, as I said, when your brush is wet, you're more apt to get a lot of bleed through. And my brush is quite wet, so I know this isn't easy sort of filming, Matt, and trying to get up in here. I can show you the other side in a minute. I just don't like to do too much of a spoiler alert at the beginning. I've got a funny feeling that this is going to suffer so much bleed through that I might have to do it again. Right, so anything where you touch it, don't worry, you can touch those up. So I put that one on there, so that gets rid of that one. The next one I want to have is this one, and I'm going to dip it in the mix of the Florence and the Antibes. No, the Florence and the Giverny. I had to think about my paint colours there. There we go. And I'm going to put this one going up here onto here. I'm just kind of setting the scene for each panel. So that one there. And then I want something, the tall one, and I'm going to be having some of this and some of this. I might need to add a little bit more of, this is the one that I added, and this is the Amsterdam green, and I want a little bit of this furl. I don't mind if it mixes into here. Yeah, that's, I think, the sort of same colour as I had. And I don't need all of this stamped. I just need some of it because I won't be taking it too high up. And I want to have something like, and I'm layering these all over the top of one another. If you touch with your stamp down on the black, don't worry, we're going to have to do quite a lot of tidying up. I think as well, black is not forgiving, and it's certainly not forgiving with a metal stencil, so that's another thing to bear in mind if you're considering buying a metal stencil. I don't normally not recommend things, but I'm not. I don't think I would recommend these. The metal stencil is it's not very good. I've had to do an awful lot of cleanup that I wouldn't normally have to do with a mylar stencil. So
I think the metal stencil.
You give us your opinion, Matt.
Well, I was just thinking about use cases kind of thing. And I think if you were
doing a one-off.
Well, I was thinking that if you were going to like burn a design onto wood or something,
yeah,
you know, then because it's a metal stencil, it's not going to melt, is it?
Yeah,
that'll be quite good, probably quite good for that kind of thing, but not for what you're using it for, because as you say, you can't go around corners, can't bend it, can't shape it,
and it's quite bad for bleed through. I'm just kind of adding my sort of the parts that I couldn't because of where the piece of furniture goes in. I'm just kind of adding my sort of almost with a brush.
I might try that.
Well, you could try that, Matt.
I might steal your stencil and burn it onto a piece of wood and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there would be a use for it. And bucket is behind me. These are all going in the bucket. You can hear the water because you can't have those just sitting out. Right, so we've got this and this. I'm going to show you the other side now, just to put it into context. Yes. So that's that side. What did we do up here? I pretty much used something similar. I'm just going to get my little stamp back out the water, because when you're stamping anything for a long period of time, it gets really dry. You have to keep cleaning it. If you don't keep cleaning it, you're not going to get a really good impression. And I just feel like, you know, for the sake of keeping on cleaning it and for the sake of what you're doing, I think I would do it. So with this one, I've got a sort of kind of blue here. So I'm going to do something like that again. I'm not particularly cleaning my roller or anything. I'm just kind of, because then that way I'm getting sort of variations as well on the colours and things, which I think are quite nice. So something like this here. And this particular part here was where I had to do quite a lot of cleanup because it's touching. Now, you could put a piece of masking tape across it if you wanted to, but it's quite fresh paint. And even with for sensitive finishes paint, I think I'm a bit more like, I'd rather just touch it up. A lighter green for maybe, yeah. And I've got this tiny little one over here, which I kind of put on twice. I think if you're doing anything, there's an amount of sort of cleanup as you go. I've got another roller here, so I'm just going to do maybe this sort of colour. And you should never ink up a stamp in your hand the way I'm doing it, but it's just so you can see what I'm doing. Maybe positioning something like this. And I'm just going to go back in with this little edge here and do here. And I'll clean this up with my black in a minute. And once I had done all that malarkey round and round and round and round and round, I am just going to show you me doing this just so that you can see. Just take as much of that away as you can. Get your brush that you're going to fix it with. And just touch up all the pieces that you've touched. And that's just, you know, good housekeeping. I'll come down and get down here in a minute. So now, put the lid back on that. move this back over. Next, you're going to need some gold paint. I use the Gild Lane. It's called Gild Lane Acrylic Gilding Enamel. And Charlene, who won our prize in the decoupage group, she won some of this gold and she really likes it. So there you go. Now then you just need to get a script brush and you just need to go around, filling in anywhere where it was black, gold. And this just takes a little bit of time for this part because you want to make a nice job of it. I'm using a number 1 liner, a bigger brush. It's a number 1. We had this discussion last night on our channel membership group. Round here like this. So you understand the principle. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm not going to make you endure me for doing it. But basically, I just outlined the whole of the butterfly. No, it's a moth. The whole of the moth in the gold and got rid of all of the black lines. There is going to be, as I said, Posca pens over the top of this. Now, the next thing I did after this was I moved on. I'll get this back in a minute. I moved on to the moons. I'm really not happy with the moons. That stencil has not done a nice job, but I think I spent more time touching it up with an artist brush than I actually did. So obviously I put it on that way, but I want the moons at the top, so I'm just doing this. And the way I kind of judge it is this is still centre to the body, then we're pretty good. Now I've got a little bit of white here for my stencil, and I also want, I have to be quite ambidextrous, a little bit of this yellow, because I originally did them in white and then went, oh, they're just way too white, they're screaming now beside the black. So and I know there's going to be touch up that needed, and I'm just going back with the yellow and just putting some yellow in that. And I did the same top and I did the same on this bottom row as well. So I obviously have to fix this. They're a little bit better. See, look, the metal stencil is scraping the paint off. I'll be glad when we don't have to do any more moths. I think I might do some on this panel here, maybe one here and here, and then after that I can pretty much use my own things, because this is not good. Right, okay, so I'll do the moons up here. I'll finish this all off with the gold, and the next thing I want to do is, once I've fixed this and fixed these, is I want to paint around here this diamond in gold, but I want to try and make this into an eye here and make this the pupil. I'm going to have to draw it on my pencil. When I come to do that, I'll show you me doing that. And then we're going to start having to pull all this together. I'm going to need more design around here. I'm going to need some, maybe some tiny little stars if we've got moons. And then I'm going to need to pick a stencil for around the framework. But it's coming along. I'm getting there. Okay, so I've put the little stars on, and all I'm doing for that is I'm just using a Posca. It's just, I started to use a liner up there and I thought, do you know what, just do this. And they're just tiny little stars. They're not, I'm not perfect at them, but it'll look fine when it's done. So they're just going to cover in between and around here. Now I'm going to add some pink to this soon with a sort of layering sort of stamp to get some flowers in it. But before I do that, I've got some white down here in my palette. I've done the gold down here that I said I was going to do, and I'm going to try my utmost to turn this into an eye, if I can. So there's a kind of round spot here, and there's a lot of kind of parts where the planter kind of dips in and out. So I'm not saying it's going to be absolutely perfect, but we'll see what we can do. I think it kind of adds to the sort of mystical, sort of magical thing that I'm doing. So maybe it doesn't. Marley, what do you think? Over to you. You have no idea where this is going.
Well, I trust you. I'm just gonna
pop the heater off.
It was pointing right at my ankle.
Oh, well, I don't want you to have a hot
which
ankle.
Is now on fire.
Not literally. Do you know, Martin and I, we had a fire in our house this week. A bit of excitement, you know, just at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're working away. And a socket went on fire. And I was saying to Martin, fire, fire. And he's going, where? Oh, so yeah, that was a bit of excitement. We were working and it was really late at night, and thank goodness it happened when we were still up. But yeah, I don't really want.
I'm not commenting.
You're not commenting?
No.
What, on the stress? I was certainly stressed.
I wasn't.
My mum was as cool as a cucumber. It was like, you know, the house goes on fire every day.
The house wasn't on fire. It was
just a socket, and the flames were licking up the walls. But you know, that's okay. Martin was like as cool as a cucumber, came along, and it's on fire. And Martin actually got his hands, switched off the sockets, and pulled out the plug. The plug was still on fire.
I'm not going to tell him what you wanted to do.
I said get a damp tea towel and cover it, but I think that's for a chip pan fire. Anyway, I need to brush up on my fire protection. So I'm kind of like, I'm jumping off the fire now. I'm going back onto this. I'm just kind of like making sure that it's reasonably eye-shaped. We're going to line it and everything. But as I said, I've got a lot of kind of ins and outs with my furniture. And I think what I'm going to try and do is where the curly parts are in the detail is I'm going to try and turn those into eyelashes. Now I know it's bold, but I'm going to try. I'm labouring a wee bit long on this, but I just want you to see the eye going on, because then you'll understand it next time you see it. I'm going to have quite a big, large black pupil, but I want to add a bit of colour that kind of complements everything else. So I'm just going to do something like this round here, and I think maybe I should have used a liner. My brush is a little bit big. I'm always saying to you guys, pick the right size of brush. Try that again with the right size brush. See what difference the right size brush actually makes. It's going to need quite a significant amount of tidying up off camera, but it was just to kind of give you an idea how this might look. Something like this. I will tidy it up off camera so that it is a bit more better than I currently have here now. So that's going to look like this. It's going to have like maybe a highlight in it when we're done. But what I thought, and this is the part where it could all go horribly wrong, what I thought was I'd get gold. Now my gold, the only problem with this gold, it gets a little bit thick near the end, but because it's water-based, it's brilliant. You can just add a little bit of your water and thin it down, and that's a really good thing about it. So you're not wasting any of it. And I thought, how would I do this? I thought I'd do something like put a part in here and a part here and in here. And there's like 2 lines that come down the furniture here. So what I thought I would do, again, this is going to need some finessing off camera here. And again, there's like straight lines that go along in here, and I'm literally just resting my liner into the the recesses of the furniture. That's all I'm doing, trying to get it. If you go over and you make it like that, like I've done there, you can just tidy it up with some black. And There's a moon shape here, and one here, and here, and here. I've done that pretty quickly. I'm going to have to tidy it all up in a minute, but you get, now there's a kind of, like, just where there's a little kind of, you might just do that as well. And then all these little recesses are sort of filled with gold. It is going to need like a lid, a black lid or a different coloured lid, but you can see kind of where this is going to go. Next thing, once I've kind of gone along and tidied this up a bit, because there's these shapes here as well, there's like sort of moon shapes here. And when I have been looking at this piece of furniture now about a week, and the more I looked at it, the more I saw little moons, and the more I thought, this is the kind of thing I want to do. I don't know what sort of genre we're calling this. As I said, mystical, magical, not quite sure. And I can tidy these up as well. It's because I'm kind of rushing. Yes, it's getting there. What I was just about to say was the pink. I had a little stamp a minute ago, and I bet you can't find it again because that would just be too simple. No, it wasn't that one. Martin's checking under his feet.
There's one, I think there was one under that mat there.
Is there?
No.
Do you know what? I'm so used to just having... Did I stick it over here? No, I didn't. Is it under there? Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the camera while I find it. Is that it? No, that's not it, Martin. That's not what I'm looking for. It's a little plastic one, similar to that. Right, this is very boring. I'm going to go and find my stamp. I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, so I found it. It was actually just in front of me, and we just stopped the camera when there it was. So on my mix mat here, I have some Crepey pink, which I'm just adding a little bit of white to, because I want a pink, but I don't want a... I want quite a dark pink, but I don't... Yeah, I think this is the sort of colour that I'm looking for here. Yeah, right. Okay, so how are we going to do this? I want to put some pink. I want to put some pink flowers over the top of some of this detail. And in these sort of ferns, I want to have like a flower growing here and maybe one here. So I think probably the best way, because I'm just going to paint it in, I think probably the best way to actually do this is just to get a wee roller, and I just threw it in the bottom of my sink again a minute ago. But it's coming on a pace. It's moving in some direction. I just think, although I like all the golds and the greens, I think it just needs something to make it a little bit poppy. And I think the pink is what is required here. I'm just going to roll on my pink, but also I'm going to paint it in pink and then go back over. I think I've got some stays on in gold somewhere, or I'll just use my gold that I'm using. So I'm just using the pink to actually stamp it on before I paint it. So where can I test this theory? I'm thinking here for my first one. And this isn't going to look pretty because it's got to be painted in, but I'm thinking one here, and maybe, and again, never roll things on your knee, maybe here. And it just is going to give it a little bit of something else by introducing this pink. And up the top, I'm not going to make you endure all of this. I think I might do something like here. Oh, I shifted there. Yeah, and same on the other side. So I'm going to get on, paint these out pink. Don't have to be the same on both sides. Paint these in pink, and then we'll come back and we'll do these with the gold. And I'll fix up my eye and things, and then we'll be getting to this sort of frame here next. Okay, so it looks like you've missed an awful lot, but in stencil world, you've not really missed that much. Now, last night I painted in my flowers pink, and I was going to go back over them in gold, but I didn't. I went back over them with black, black stays on ink. So just paint it, stamp it, paint it, stamp it. That's what I've done with those. Now, I did a blue line just with a line around my eye. And I noticed when I watched back a little bit of footage last night that up in here was very messy. So I tidied that. Now, also I noticed in what you're seeing and what I'm seeing is the Athenian black is highly, highly pigmented. It's the most pigmented. It's so pigmented, the black. And whenever you touch it up, you're seeing a sort of grey area. The reality is that I'm not seeing that. The camera is picking that up. And when you seal it, all those kind of bits that you've touched up will disappear. It's just because it's so highly pigmented. So I haven't got lots of dirty marks and things in it. It just, when I watched that footage back last night, I thought, that's not, you know, and came back to it today and went, right, okay, fix that, because it was the angle it was being filmed at. And I thought, that looks terrible. But I was doing down here. I wasn't really looking up in there. Am I starting to love this? Oh, by golly, yes, I am. What have you missed? So I have this star stamp. I've got this one here to fix because I think I just over painted it with my ink, with my paint, but I can fix that. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking there's a whole heap of fixes going on in this one. It's just because I'm working on black. I've not got any distress going on. And if you want a clean finish, there is no point me telling you a lie, which means that this is all going to be perfect as it goes. It's not going to be like that. So when you work like this, you know there's going to be fixes, and you just fix as you go. So I've got this star stamp. Now this, I can't even tell you. I think it's about 8 or 9 years old. It's one of IOD stamps. It's from a Christmas stamp collection. It's an old one. It's a little bit, it's had its day, really. It's a bit like me. Martin and I were just laughing a minute ago when I said that. I said, I think it's just a bit goosed. But anyway, it'll do the job for today. What stencil am I using? I'm using this one here. I rooted through all my stencils. Now, when it comes to borders, stencils generally come in this. They usually come with big form, but sometimes you can get ones that are just perfect size. And this had been cut up, but it had never actually been used. I'd obviously thought about it before, but hadn't. This is also quite a good one as well, because it comes with a corner, but this isn't the corner to this pattern. So, but all I'm saying is measure, get your stamps out, measure to where you think you're going to want to go. And this one here fitted the design. So, but my intention is to do a piece here, and do the star in the middle for this part here. So down on my palette, I'll just move all these messy brushes, because these were all what I've been using. I'm just going to pop that down on there, and it's just the Athenian black. No, it's not. It's just the.
It doesn't look like Athenian black.
No, dear me, we're starting, and it's not even right this morning. Givany and Florence mixed together. It just gives me a sort of brighter shade. And as I said, this stamp really has maybe kind of had its day, but we're going to make it work. So it's not on any mount either, which means that, you're going to have to kind of. If you've got a star stencil, I would just use something like that. Pop it on here, and that is going to form the center of here. I think this is actually going to be quite a nice piece when it's done. Right, so there's my star there. But I am wanting to have my florals. I'm just going to take this little edge here away, just so that I can get an idea. Do you know what? I'm going to take the corner off my stencil as well, because I can put that back in my box. It's not necessary for this, and it's kind of like, so we're going to have something like, try not to touch it up onto here. Once you've got your positioning, hold it with one hand. That means you can be sort of really ambidextrous and just use your other hand for all the other things. So I'm dipping in my gold, I'm putting it on my palette, and I'm offloading my brush. Now this time, yesterday you saw me using a lot of stencil brushes. Today I've just reverted back to using paint brushes, because I want to keep it as tidy as I can. So, I think I maybe got quite a lot of gold in my brush, this one. So all I did was I did the leaves in the gold, and I'll do one side to completion, so you know what I've done all the way around. But you haven't missed much. Sometimes if I go away and do a bit of stenciling, there's that feeling when you come back and go, oh, she's done loads. I haven't really done that much. I've just applied this stencil, but it fills up pretty quickly. So I'm just picking out all my gold. Remember your little vein, if you've got something like this little vein that runs around the middle. And this is a stencil that you're going to have to keep cleaning, because that little vein that runs along the middle of your leaves will fill up with paint quite quickly. I haven't got anything in my paint to thicken it up, because sometimes I'll maybe add a little bit of clay just to thicken it up, but I don't need that right now. Over here I've got my pink, and it's the same pink as I mixed up last night. It's just the Capri pink and a little bit of original white. I'm just having to mix a little bit more because it was drying on my palette quite fast. And swirly twirly around your flowers, making sure you hold your stencil flat to your surface and tight to your surface, because that prevents bleed through. Moving this finger over here and just doing the same over here. And literally, this is forming the basis of all of the borders, this stencil. I probably would never have maybe used it before, because it's not exactly kind of, I do a lot of Indian stuff and I don't think it's kind of particularly Indian, so I've maybe just stuck it to the side and thought I'll come back to that. So
works on this though.
It does, it works perfectly on this. Remove your stencil, and then you've got your kind of parts to fix. So I've got my script brush, and I've got the turquoise. I'm just going to call it the turquoisey blue mix for argument's sake from now on. I'm just doing a spot here and a spot here, and I think I might just finish that and do a spot here. And because there's nothing working into the keyhole, I ran my gold over the keyhole as well, but I'm going to show you me doing that hinge up there in a minute. So that runs that along there. Clean your brush, because now you're going to be wanting some white on it. Make sure your brush is clean. And filling in the centre of the flowers with white. This is all I did here. I just joined them together on this row, put the star on the edges. That star's perfect. That one there's I need to fix. Down the sides, I'm going along here, and I'm going to go along the bottom. Something that I didn't show you yesterday, which I meant to show you, was I got my black Posca pen, and all I was doing was kind of just putting a little bit of some sort of kind of detail into my moth. Nothing kind of exciting really, just kind of a little bit of something, kind of just adds a little bit of interest. I mean, you could put like an eye shape in there or paint tiny little flowers. You could do whatever you wanted. And I just kind of ran it along here like that, just to highlight the body. I'm not exactly, I think I'm fixing that bit there, I've had brain fade, Marty. Antennas. I don't know. These pieces here that go, I think they're awfully crude on the stencil. And if I'd had to do it again, I would have not put those in, and I would have hand painted those in. But they're in now, and they look okay down here in this format. It's just when I flip them around, and I think this gives it a kind of almost, when you do something like this, it always makes it something look a bit Art Deco when you use pattern and you flip it and you do something like this. I'm okay with it, but it's just that could have been. So I'm going to do this border all the way around, but I'm just going to quickly show you what I did with the hinges, which was dipped in my gold. You don't need too much paint. And literally you're just going over your hinges to make those look gold. Trying to eradicate that little bit pink where I went over. I'm at the wrong angle to do any more. This I'll have to change position in, I think, to do this side, but you get the idea. That just makes those pop as well. It just gives them something back. Once I've done this round there, because I think we're pretty much all up to speed now, I'm going to work on this border along here and these borders down here, but I'll have to go back to my stamps again to see what I've got that will work along here. I might just put the leaves coming up the sides and the leaves coming down from the top, and maybe get the dreaded metal stencil out and do a moth in the middle. I think that's probably what I'm going to do here, and I'll make this part up here heavily patterned. I do think this border, this round these edges here of the cupboard, could do with, you know how I've put this here with the liner in the blue. I'm thinking I would like to kind of do a tiny little rim of white fluted, something like this. But I'm just because the moons are white, the eye is white, I could do with a little bit of something to maybe just finish that off. I'm unclear yet, but this is how it looks so far. I'm really happy with it. And as I said, don't be disheartened because you hear me saying every 2 minutes, I'm going to have to fix that. I'm going to have to fix that. This is especially black, and especially Annie Sloane's Athenian black. It is so pigmented that you just have to fix as you go. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you it's totally normal to be able to have to fix as you go. I just don't normally have as many fixes because I'm doing a very distressed look. But when it's crisp, you have to fix them, because when somebody hones right in your work, it has to look good. It can't just look good from a distance. It has to look good in general. So I'm going to get on and do the rest of the stenciling. Just put this long stamp here. We thought we were filming it, and then we realised we weren't. So I'm just going to reverse it and put it up in the different direction from the bottom. But what I was saying a minute ago was I have, up above me, I've done the blue, and I've done that whole band blue, and I've done some gold, and I've also started stenciling up the top, but you've not missed any of that because that's just the same stenciling that I'm doing down the bottom at the moment. So I'm just trying to get this side done before I move on, and then I'll just quickly point to what I've done and what you possibly have missed. Right, so I've got this and this here. As I said, I've done this blue on the feet and the gold. I've done the blue here and the gold, and this band here is going to be gold as well, but I need to wait until I can tape this off. So I've got these two coming down here, and I thought what I would do is I would just ink up. My stamps have just come out of water. I'm just making sure they're dry, because my hope is to put this moth somewhere in here. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back to the green, not the green, to the metal stencil for that, unfortunately. Martin's going to try burning it on something. So I'm just going to turn this around and kind of do a sort of layered effect over the top of this with this green over here. And I'm going to do the same at the bottom. And then I'm going to put some of the pink flowers in it. That's how this is all going to pan out. And I didn't clean my stamp there from the blue to putting the green on, just because I just need a different kind of slight shade. I'll put this down here so that the sides look nice. And obviously I need this flower stamp, which is this one, to put in amongst here. And if I can't get the moth stencil in between it, just let me pull this off. I'm trying to do too many things at once. I'm trying desperately not to make this a feature-length movie. I'm hoping that this, I think it will fit in this gap here. So I'm going to put the moth in here, and you've seen me do the moth before, so I'm just going to put the moth in here and the pink flowers. I did a tiny little fluted line with my liner, but only did it on these two sides because sometimes you have to think in advance. And because this is so tight down the bottom, I wasn't going to be able to put the line in down there. So I've just done these two sides, and I've still got to tidy this up a little bit, but I just got my liner and I ran in there just to kind of make these panels stand out from a distance. So I'm going to do this, which I've done here with the moth on this side, that on the other side. Then we need to think, I think I'd like some pattern in here. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. You've seen the stenciling work. It's going to continue all the way around here. And then I would like to try and find a different stencil for this edge here if I can. But we're moving through it, so I just don't want to keep showing you the same thing. There was negative spaces here, 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 and here, and I just got the same stamp that I was doing. I tidied this one up, by the way. So this blue stamp here, I just put white in it to do these 4 stamps here, and that is all. Yeah, I'm not jumping ahead. It's just that it's kind of just evolves as it kind of goes. So that's where we're at with this piece so far. So quick recap, both sides have been done. They're both done. Round the stenciling around the top has been done. Hinges have all been done gold. I put the stars in the corners and I did this little fluted edge down here. I've taken the shelves out because I hadn't painted below them, underneath them anyway. I'm going to be painting the bottom black and flipping them around because I think it will have more impact if the shelves are black. Now, this band up here, I want to continue the eye, but I don't have any detail up here. So good old piece of cereal box is always good for me. I just folded it over, cut my eye shape, cut my eyebrow, and there we are. That's it. Not really going to think too much about that. I'm just going to put my glasses on, that might help. I'm just going to do my eye first, and then we'll make a separate stencil or something to draw around for the eyebrow. I'm going to go back in and, not the eyebrow, for the pupil. But what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do the eyebrow until I'm and I'm just using my cardboard here for how far I want to go along. And I'm just going to do this along here so that I've got eyes. And this is what I mean about doing furniture art. Really, to be honest with you, if you don't have it and you want it, make it. You shouldn't have a thing that you can't do it. It just make it. I've been doing this for a long time, making things.
Can't is a word that you don't understand, is it?
I don't like. I don't even like the word if somebody tells me I can't do something. That could send me in. No, well, in fact, it just makes me more determined that I can. So, and I think that's maybe good, but not always for you, Marty. I'm having to keep dipping in. I've got
sometimes. Oh, please don't.
My paint's a little bit, it's got a little bit of a pink tint to it. I think it must have been in my stencil brush. So you know what I'm doing here. When it's dry, I'm going to be, somebody at the door. Right, we'll go and get the door and we'll come back in a minute. Okay, so
sorry about the interruption.
You just heard somebody at the door. This has got nothing to do with paint, but I'm just going to share anyway because we're a sharing sort of channel. About a week ago, our kettle, there was something wrong with it. It kept leaking and leaking and leaking and leaking. And I went out yesterday and I went to just everywhere that I could to find a kettle, but none of the kettles there I liked. I was also being incredibly tight. I did check the charity shops, but they did, because my kettle that was leaking I've had for 2 years and I bought it from a charity shop. Anyway, I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to buy myself a new kettle.
She needed a little bit of encouraging, but
so
in the end
I decided to pick a kettle that was more expensive than an ordinary kettle, but just because I need to show you my kettle has arrived. I want to show you my kettle. My kettle is from Laura Ashley. It's a Laura Ashley kettle. Doesn't probably mean much in the US because you don't use kettles.
They don't use kettles, do they?
This is my new kettle. Look at that.
Ooh.
Isn't that glorious? I just can't tell you the joy of my new Laura Ashley kettle. Anyway, I'll get on to painting, which has got nothing to do with my kettle, but yes, I'm very pleased with that. That was who was at the door. It was my kettle. So once you've done, I'm just going to get back into this now. Once you've done these white shapes, you also need to have something like this, which are your sort of kind of templates. So this would be my eyeball. This would be my...
Can you drink?
What? The round part of your eye. Your pupil. No, the little black dots are pupil. Your retina, your iris. This is the coloured part in your eye, and this is the middle part of your eye.
We're useless, aren't we?
I'm just going to do it once so you can see. I had to put my glasses down because I got a bit giddy with the kettle man arriving. So
that is a nice kettle, baby.
It is a nice kettle. I knew it was going to be nice as soon as I saw it. I thought. They had different variations. They had one that looked like Wedgwood china with a blue and white pattern on it. I mean, my kitchen isn't even blue, by the way. It's green, but, you know. So once you've done, and you've got this on, it's just to kind of give you the same sort of shape all the way around.
If you're going to have a kettle.
Yeah, you may as well have a Laura Ashley one.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd started the day yesterday at the charity shop, so I really went, I don't know what happened to me in the intervening time, but I obviously went a little bit crazy.
I know what happened.
So
you went to too many shops looking for kettles, and you just
I got overwhelmed and went,
look, you like that one, have it.
I'm just trying to think. So this is why down here, obviously I did blue, but I can't use the blue. So I'm going to go with the green that is the green of up in the cupboard. So I'm just loading up my brush with that green. And literally, I'm going to paint this in green. Now, once I've done this, I'm going to draw in it again and do my little black. Oops. Obviously, when you do this at home, you're going to make a nicer job than I've just done there. It's the giddiness of the kettle. It set me off.
It's lush.
What, my eye?
The kettle.
Oh.
What was it, that category of lushness?
I thought you were talking about my painting.
No. Well,
Sad,
your painting as
sad
well.
times.
I've told you what I think of this piece. This piece is properly
Martin
lush.
really likes this. Martin really likes this and was talking about it over lunch. I think he has a hankering to keep this now. If I was saying let's keep it, he'd be doing no, we've no room. But suddenly now we have.
Yeah. This one might be staying at ours.
So when this is dry, obviously I'm going to go over it with the pupil, draw that round, paint that in. I'm going to do that all the way around this pattern, and then I'm going to go back in with my template again and draw and paint in my eyebrow, and then I'm going to do eyelashes down the bottom. So I'm going to go and do that. You understand the concept of what I'm doing. It's good to make templates. If you've found something in your furniture, like I was able to make this into an eye, and this all sparked from this little shape in this wood that looked like a bit like a moon. And I thought, what goes with moons? Moss and ferns. Ferns go with flowers. And that's how this all evolved. So I'm going to do my eyes. And then once my eyes are done, we are pretty much nearly getting to the kind of end of all of this malarkey. I think.
What about the top?
What top? Oh, it's a never ending. It's turning into one of those never ending. There's carved detail at the top that I still have to paint in. So I'm just going to pick
that black band there.
Yeah, I did the top gold just before I went for lunch. The reason why I went for lunch was I stood up to paint the top gold. It felt really dizzy and went, I don't think if I did anything to eat. So now I'm feeling totally invigorated and for it. So I'm going to do my eyes. We'll get up to the top, and then we're going to, I think this panel on either side, I have made up my mind that I think if I could just find it, it's finding the metal stencil, it's here. I think what I might do is see the moons, the waxing waning moons. I think I'm going to do those up this edge here, but we'll get to that once I get up there. Okay, so that's the eyes all painted in now, just as I did, just as I said. Do the eye shape with a sort of cereal box. Put your retina, I don't know what it is, the colour part and then your black part. Line it, do some gold eyelashes, and you've got that done. All of the bottom is done. I'll put the moons on the side. Problem with the moons is because the stencil doesn't bend, I had to kind of hand paint these because it can't get it in between there and there and there and there. So, but it's cohesive and it works.
That
now
pesky metal stencil.
Yeah. Now this is where it starts to look messy. These are not all the right shape to be painting in. It's sometimes if you pick mouldings, you can paint them in really simply, but this looks incredibly messy. So what I have to do now is I have to fix it all. But what I can probably do, if I'm smart enough, is I can probably fix the pink. And it's just a little bit of a different shade, but I can probably fix the pink with some Poscas. That can be done. And these are all the sort of tricks. So I can probably fix the pink and outline that and get that into a nicer sort of shape. The blue, unfortunately, no. I'm going to have to get a tiny little liner and neaten up that, and the same with the green. But the pink I can fix just by using pens. These things, they're brilliant to burnish out with gold colours, but not great to paint in. And by using a slightly different shade of pink, it's giving my flower a little bit of detail. You can see how I'm applying it kind of like, and then going around the edge. So I'm going to go along now and I'm going to fix all of this. And the last thing I have to do is there's a little sort of flourish, 1, 2, 3, I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to paint those in gold, and I have this little detail along here to fix because there's a little bit of gold touched on that. And pretty much that's us done. I painted the shells black on the top. They're green underneath, which looks really quite cool. So they're green underneath and black at the top. So if you're sitting under the piece, you can see that they're green underneath and they're black on the top. How I'm going to seal this? I'm going to seal this whole piece with French Chic Tough Top Coat Sealer. You could wax it, but with waxing right now for me, it means I'm going to have to keep this piece, although I think Martin wants to keep it anyway, but it would have to stay in the house for at least a week before I could move it anywhere. And I've got quite a lot of pieces of furniture in the boot room right now, so until I get over to the stable and the temperature starts to rise, then I'm sealing with sealer right now. But the black would come out really nice with a nice wax, and
it would, wouldn't
it? It would look nice. So it's kind of what if you live in a hot climate, you've got nothing to worry about. Living in Scotland, a little bit different. So I'm going to fix all these pink flowers at the top. I'm going to get my liner and go around this blue and neaten up that sort of crude edge and do the little gold up here. And I feel like I'm kind of jumping through this today, but quite a lot of it is repetitive and quite a lot of it ends up being Martin probably has about 3 or 4 hours footage trying to make into as short as possible as time. So sometimes, maybe kind of, if you get one part, then you probably get the rest of the part. But how is this led? It led from, I looked at the furniture and I could see those tiny little moons. I thought, I'm looking for something mystical. Just those little shapes down there. So sometimes have a good look at your furniture, see what's carved into it. The moons made me think of something mystical, and then I started thinking about moss and moons, and I found the stencil, and the rest has literally just evolved from that. The piece has definitely helped. I mean, I'm glad I took the ugly glass out of it. It just looks completely more modern, more sought after now. I mean, you can do lots of things with stained glass, and I maybe at some point will revisit stained glass. I mean, you can decoupage over the stained glass, you can add transfers, you can do all these different things to glass. But for this piece, I think for the look of the whole piece, I think being able to see the green behind it as well, it gives it all a little bit of depth. I mean, while you're looking into it with the shells being black, you've got your depth in there, you've got your colours popping out. And this is what I was just trying to say to Marty in the kitchen. I'm known for a lot of colour. And you would think when I started it, because it was black, that you'd be thinking, black? But the thing is, black is a great way to show colour. And I've picked colours that really pop on black. So it's another way to introduce colour. If you're feeling not so brave and you want to start with a colour that you think, I mean, you can start with black, and as long as you add in colours on top of that that really pop, then it really makes a difference to your furniture. Anyway, I'm going to go finish the top, I'm going to seal it, I'm going to tidy myself up, and it probably won't maybe get staged out today, but it will tomorrow, and I'll do the little talky bit at the end. So what did we do today? We initially painted our furniture Athenian black, and I did the inside the new Capability green from Annie Sloan. How did we kind of how did I hit upon the design for today? I found a little moon carved in, a moon sort of shape carved into the furniture. That sort of grew arms and legs. I used the metal stencil. Don't really know what to say about those. There was a lot of tidying and a lot of cleanup. I did a lot of hand painting, a lot of stenciling, and I pulled together something that I'm really happy with. So it just goes to show you, not everything works out. Can I just add as well, I think people think that I don't care about mistakes, and I think that I always say, it's not striving for perfection won't make you happy. You're never going to be happy. But I think what I was trying to say in this is, when you're looking for a crisp look, there is an awful lot of cleanup, there is an awful lot of tidy up, and there is an awful lot of going back over things to get it just right. And that is the time where I find it worth spending the time. Doesn't matter if it takes me longer to make it look polished, I will do that. Is it perfect? Nothing's perfect, but I'm really happy with it. And I think Martin really likes this one as well. Nice colours. It just shows you how colours can pop on black. A lot of gold, which is nice. And overall, a nice, happy, sunny piece, which I don't know, it's still a debate for our house where we're keeping or not.
We're keeping it.
If you see it for sale, you'll know. I just don't think we have the room. But anyway, that's been it for today. I've been Lel, from Made by Marley, and the lovely Martin is behind the camera. Martin, do you have anything to add to today?
No, I love this piece and we're keeping it.
I don't think we are, but anyway, that's just
we'll see
for off camera. Okay, see you next Sunday. If you've liked this video, don't forget to like, share, give us a thumbs up, leave us a lovely comment, and please do not forget to subscribe. See you again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.